Justice Dawn Beam is my guest. She is a Mississippi Supreme Court justice and joins me in studio. Kind enough to make the trip up from South Mississippi. Great to see you this morning.
Great to be here, Richard. And I was welcome this morning with some beautiful weather. I think it's about 43 out. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Just incredible. I told Lance earlier, I don't know that a cup of coffee has tasted that good in a really long time. You walk out and it's crisp like that early in the morning.
Well, it was warm yesterday in South Mississippi, and then when I got up here in Oxford this morning, it was really nice.
No doubt. I do appreciate you making the trip. We're limited on our time, so I want to get into your story and make sure that people know you. You were appointed to the Supreme Court by Governor Phil Bryant. And then had to go through an election cycle about a year or so after that. You were closing in on the end of an 8-year term, and obviously you're back in an election cycle again. Tell me about that appointment.
Well, it was very interesting. I never dreamed of being on the Supreme Court and was working hard as a chancery judge in South Mississippi, doing the best I could. Your goal is for the Supreme Court not to know your name. If you're doing a good job, nobody has to appeal you, right? So I thought I was doing a good job of staying under the radar, but just out of nowhere, I got a call from the governor's office asking me to come and visit with Governor Bryant. He had never been in the mansion before, never really talked to a governor before. And so we sat down. I thought it was a job interview. It really was, well, when can you start? And so my husband and I prayed about it, and we just felt like this is what God would have us do. I think we're here for a limited time, and our goal is to leave Mississippi better than we found it.
You are the only woman on the Supreme Court in Mississippi. Tell me why that matters.
Well, you have 9 people on the court, and that is the court of last resort, that we don't have any room for error. And so 9 people with diverse backgrounds come together. I don't think anybody would disagree. Women and men think differently.
I would agree with that.
So I bring, my husband would too, but I bring a unique view to the court, and that's important. We deal with a variety of cases, and certainly everybody's background comes into play. We have, I think, about 5 of the justices have a background in criminal law. My background is in chancery court. I have held a prosecutor's position. That was my first election. I was elected prosecutor of Lamar County, won by 1 vote. But that was the last time I ever had an election party because it was the longest night of my life. But that diversity of those that have done civil litigation and criminal litigation, and there was one chancery judge, and then Bobby Chamberlain's the only circuit judge on the Supreme Court. But all of us coming together to make the right decision that affects all of Mississippi.
You know, judiciary elections are interesting to me because you're not a Republican or a Democrat in a judicial election. You can't actively ask people to contribute to a campaign. You can't specifically talk about the issues that might be coming before you in the court. And it's like, well, how do you run for office? You know, how is it that you make yourself known? Because you do need money for these campaigns, and you do need support from generally one party or another, and you need to be able to talk about the issues and people to understand kind of the lens through which you view issues. So with all of that said, how do you feel about all this stuff? Now, you talk about your background and the perspective that you bring, the viewpoint that you bring. Without getting yourself in trouble as generally as you can, what are the issues that are most concerning to you in Mississippi as we work to continue to move forward as a state?
Okay, you handed me a number of questions there.
There was a lot there.
Yeah. With regard to elections of the judiciary, I think it's imperative that people have faith in the judiciary. Mm-hmm. And so I have enjoyed getting out there and being able to love on and touch folks and explain to them the importance of the judiciary. Also, there are, in general, two judicial philosophies. One is the idea that the Constitution is a living, breathing document. And so as time changes, so should the interpretation of that. And I am a strict constitutional conservative, which means that I don't read anything into the Constitution. It says what it says. I don't legislate from the bench. I simply follow what the Constitution and the laws of the state are, and it's up to the legislature to change the law, not me. Yeah. And so I've explained that to folks, and they appreciate that. I have 9 years of decisions that are consistent with that. I've never deviated from that. I'm sure my opponent would be glad to point out if I ever did, because I say I'm a sure bet. I'm a constitutional conservative. I've done it for 9 years, and Dawn is not going to change. So that's one thing. You talk about the question of what's on the horizon for the court. There are lots of things on the horizon. We regulate lawyers, and so we're looking at changing the bar exam, which is a big deal for Mississippi. We want to be able to retain our lawyers in the state, and many have been opting out to go to other states because of a uniform bar exam that's accepted throughout several states. We're looking at the next gen, and that's a bar exam that has also been adopted by a number of southern states, and so that would allow folks to take it here and practice in Mississippi or go to other states, but we think that would help us retain people.
So right now, if you take the bar exam and you pass it in Mississippi, but you want to practice in Tennessee, you got to pass the Tennessee bar as well. This gives you the ability to be licensed in multiple states.
That's exactly right. So that would...
So why is that complicated?
Excuse me?
Yeah, why is that a complicated issue?
Well, it shouldn't be, but there's no national standard. Each state decides what it wants to do, and so we have used the multi-state and a state test for years and years. I've been a lawyer for 35 years, and I took the same test. We don't have a choice right now. We have to change because they're terminating the multi-state. They're not going to have that available anymore. So the court has to look at something else. Gotcha. So that's one thing that we're looking at. Another thing we're looking at, we met the other day on, is the reduction of lawyers in rural areas. You shouldn't have to go one county over in order to do a will. So we're working with the leadership of the bar, the leadership of the court, as well as the law schools to try to retain those lawyers and get them to locate in those rural areas.
We got about 2.5 minutes left. I don't want us to run out of time without giving you the opportunity to kind of make your case to the Southern District. It's obviously a very large district, about 1 million voters in District 2 that you represent. Why are you the right choice, not just in this election, but to continue in your role as a Supreme Court justice?
Well, I have a proven record, 9 years of consistently following my oath of abiding by the Constitution, and the voters can count on me to continue in that vein. I also have worked as a leader on the court, whether it be in improving our laws with regard to protecting vulnerable children and adults. I've worked,
and that's a passion of yours, right?
That's
protecting children.
Absolutely. I have worked tirelessly to improve access to justice for everybody in Mississippi. So I'm really a workaholic, and so you get a Supreme Court justice who shows up for her job every day, but also works tirelessly to improve the system of justice in Mississippi for everyone.
What's the biggest challenge in being a justice?
The biggest challenge in being a justice, I would say, is it's very isolated, and also it's very stressful. There is no room for error, and so there are nights I toss and turn trying to pray. The Bible says that if you ask for wisdom, God gives it, and so praying and asking God for wisdom to know what's best for our state.
Great conversation with Justice Dawn Beam. She is coming up on 9 years in the Supreme Court in Mississippi. She is running for re-election in the Southern District this year. That's District 2. And Glad to get to know you a little bit, to share your story and your candidacy with the people of Mississippi. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much, Richard, and to the folks in South Mississippi, I would sincerely appreciate your vote on November 5th.
It's getting close, 20 days from today. That is Justice Dawn Beam joining us this morning on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll take a quick time out. We got plenty left with you in the final 45 minutes after this.